In this video, you'll see a demo of my fingerstyle arrangement of Remember Me from the movie Coco, and then we'll move right into our lesson. So let's get started. Next, we're moving into our lesson. Keep in mind that this arrangement is for low G tuning, and in this tutorial we'll cover the more difficult sections where the fingering or the rhythm may be a bit tricky. We're starting off with measure 2. To play this measure, we're forming a G chord. We're going to pick the open 4th string and then strings 1, 2, and 3 4 times. The last time that we pick strings 1, 2, and 3, we'll hold it for a second. And then we're moving into the melody by moving our ring finger up to the 5th fret of the 2nd string. The second time we pick the 2nd string, we're going to slide our ring finger up to the 7th fret, and then we'll move it back down to the 3rd fret. Now for an easier version, you can skip the slide and simply pick frets 5, 7, and then 3. This puts us in a good position to place our index and middle fingers down to form our G chord as we move into measure 3. Next, we'll look at the end of measure 3 through measure 6. At the end of measure 3, we have our first pull-off. Here we have our index finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. And when we pick the string, we'll pull off with our index finger. For an easier version, you can skip the pull-off and simply pick each note. And now we have measure 4. We're starting measure 4 with the open 3rd string. Then we'll place our ring finger down on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, followed by our middle finger on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string to pick strings 2 and 3 together. Then we have the open 1st string, then strings 1, 2, and 3 together, and then we'll place our index finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string to pick the 1st string twice, and then we'll finish this measure on the 2nd string. Moving from measure 4 into measure 5, we'll keep our ring finger in place and move our index and middle fingers to form our G chord. In measure 5, we'll start off by picking the 3rd string, followed by the open 4th string. We'll pick strings 2 and 3 3 times, back to the open 4th string, then to strings 2 and 3, and we finish on the 1st string. The rhythm for measure 5 is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And now we have measure 6. We finished measure 5 on a G chord, so moving into measure 6, we'll keep our middle finger in place on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, and we'll place down our index finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. We'll pick strings 1, 2, and 3 together, and we'll hammer onto the 3rd fret of the 1st string. For an easier option, you can simply pick the 1st string, playing only the 3rd fret. From here, we'll play the 2nd fret of the 1st string twice, followed by the open 1st string, and now we have a G7 chord, but we're leaving the 1st string open because that's our melody note. Now if you do play the 1st chord with the hammer on, then you can leave your index finger in place for the entire measure. So here's how we count out the rhythm of measure 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Next we'll look at measures 9 and 10. So starting with measure 9, we're starting off this measure with a slide using our index finger from the 2nd fret of the 3rd string to the 4th fret. Now for an easier option, you can simply pick just the 4th fret. Then we're moving to the 5th fret of the 1st string using our ring finger. We'll pick the 1st string, and then we'll play an arpeggio, or a broken chord, through all 4 strings. Next we'll go to the 3rd fret with our middle finger, and then we have a pull-off from the 3rd fret to the 2nd fret. So we have our index finger in place on the 2nd fret. For an easier option, you can simply pick each note rather than doing the pull-off. Then we'll pick the 1st string one more time, and then we'll go to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Now here's the rhythm for measure 9. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And moving into measure 10. We're starting this measure with just our index finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. We'll pick all 4 strings and pull off with our index finger. Then we'll pick the open 1st string. Then we'll go to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string using our middle finger. And next we're going to slide from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret on the 2nd string. Here we have a slight pause, and then we'll go back to the 3rd fret, and now we're going to use our ring finger on the 5th fret, sliding up to the 7th fret, and then going back down to the 3rd fret, just like we did in measure 2. For an easier version, you can skip the pull-off and the 1st note of the slides. And here's the rhythm for measure 10. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Next we'll look at how to transition from measure 12 into measure 13. Measure 12 is played the same way as measure 4 until we get to the last few notes. So after we pick the 2nd fret of the 1st string twice, we're going to pick the first string one more time and hammer onto the 3rd fret using our middle finger. Now moving into measure 13, we'll slide our middle finger back 1 fret so that we can form our G chord. And now measure 14. We're starting measure 14 with our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string, index finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, and middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. We'll pick strings 1, 2, and 3 together. Then we'll slide our ring finger back to the 2nd fret to pick the 1st string twice. Then we'll move our ring finger back to the 3rd fret. And we finish measure 14 with a slide going from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret. For an easier version, you can skip the slide and simply pick the 5th fret. Now my final tip for you is on measure 21, our last measure. Here we're on a G chord playing strings 4, 3, and 2. So I have my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string and my index finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. We'll pick strings 4, 3, and 2. And then we have 2 artificial harmonics. The first is on the 3rd string on the 14th fret, and the second is on the 2nd string on the 15th fret. To play these harmonics, we'll gently touch our index finger to the string directly above the fret, and we'll pick the string with our thumb a few inches back. When we pick the string, we'll immediately lift up our index finger. I hope you enjoy learning this beautiful arrangement of Remember Me. Have fun practicing, and thanks for watching.